One waitress, one arrogant millionaire, and a grand piano. What started as a cruel joke to humiliate her became a moment that stunned the room into silence. You won't believe how she turned mockery into a masterpiece. It was a warm Friday night in Charleston, South Carolina. The golden glow of chandeliers bathed the polished floors of the Velvet Room, an upscale restaurant where whispers of wealth floated between glasses of aged wine and crystal cutlery. Soft jazz flowed from hidden speakers, but the grand piano in the corner remained untouched, almost like a monument to forgotten dreams. Amara, 26, moved quietly through the room in her black server's uniform. To the guests, she was just another waitress, polite, efficient, invisible. But behind her calm eyes lived something deeper: music. Not just a hobby, a soul-deep calling. From the age of 6, Amara had fallen in love with the piano. It was her refuge through every storm life threw at her: poverty, loss, sacrifice. Her mother worked double shifts as a nurse just to keep food on the table, and the old upright piano at home, gifted by a neighbor, became Amara's world. She taught herself everything. No teacher, no lessons, just passion. She dreamed of conservatories, stages, applause. But dreams don't pay bills. So she worked, day after day, hiding her gift under trays and tired feet. Tonight was just another shift, until he walked in. Leonard Thatcher, tech tycoon, billionaire, known for his ruthless business deals and his love of humiliating people for sport. He didn't just enter the restaurant. He arrived, like he owned the air itself. Tailored suit, Rolex gleaming, and behind him a crew of smug executives who laughed at jokes before they were finished. Amara saw him and sighed softly. He was the kind of guest who didn't tip, but always made sure everyone remembered he had money. But tonight, he noticed her, and that look in his eyes. It wasn't curiosity. It was the beginning of something cruel. Leonard's eyes followed Amara as she moved through the dining room with practiced grace. He leaned back in his chair, swirling his whiskey as if already scheming. Then, just loud enough for nearby tables to hear, he said with a smirk, "Tell me, waitress, what do you really do? Surely someone like you doesn't plan to serve tables forever." Amara paused, forcing a polite smile. "I play piano sometimes," she said quietly, hoping the conversation would end there. But Leonard grinned like a shark. "A pianist? Fascinating." He turned to his entourage. "Looks like we've got a hidden artist in our midst." They chuckled, eyes now on her like she was some novelty act at their private circus. "Why don't you give us a little performance?" Leonard said, gesturing toward the grand piano in the corner. "Let's see what this waitress can really do." Amara's stomach dropped. "No, thank you," she said, voice soft but firm. "I'm working tonight." Leonard raised his glass mockingly. "Ah, stage fright. Or maybe you're not as talented as you let on." Laughter echoed around the table. A few diners nearby glanced over, sensing the tension. Amara's fingers clenched at her sides. She wasn't afraid of playing. She was afraid of being made into a joke, of becoming tonight's entertainment, not for her art, but for their amusement. Leonard leaned in, voice dripping with condescension. "Come now, sweetheart, it's just a song, unless, of course, you're all talk." That did it. The words cut deep, not because they were clever, but because they were cruel, dismissive, designed to make her feel small. But Amara remembered her mother's voice. "Never let them decide who you are. You've got something they'll never understand." She took a breath. The air in the room thickened. Her coworkers stood frozen near the bar. The diners leaned in, waiting. Amara turned slowly toward the piano. "Fine," she said. "I'll play." And with those words, everything changed. The chatter in the restaurant faded into a low hum as Amara walked toward the piano. Each step echoed louder than the last. It wasn't just a walk, It was a statement. She sat at the grand piano, its glossy black surface reflecting the chandelier's light and the silent stares of curious diners. Her hands hovered above the keys, trembling slightly. Leonard leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smug grin spreading across his face. His entourage watched eagerly, as if waiting for a train wreck. But Amara closed her eyes, and she remembered the creaky piano in her grandmother's living room, the hours spent teaching herself to play by ear, the gospel chords at Sunday church, the nights she fell asleep to the sound of her own music in a small, drafty apartment. Music wasn't a hobby. It was her soul. Her fingers touched the keys gently. The first notes were soft, hesitant, like whispers in the dark. A few patrons shifted in their seats, unsure of what to expect. Then came the melody. It wasn't just beautiful. It was alive. A slow, soulful piece poured from her fingers, swelling into a wave of emotion. The room fell silent. Forks were set down. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even Leonard's smirk faltered slightly. The melody wrapped around the room like a warm blanket. Rich, aching, full of hope and heartbreak all at once. Amara's hands moved with practiced precision, her expression serene but intense. She wasn't just playing the piano. She was telling a story. Her story. Of struggle, of sacrifice, of resilience. And as the music soared, every eye in the restaurant stayed glued to her, not out of pity, but pure awe. As the final note rang out, the room remained frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. It was as if time had paused, caught in the afterglow of something too raw and beautiful to break. Then, applause. Not polite, not obligatory, real applause. It started with a single diner near the bar, then spread like wildfire through the restaurant. People rose from their seats. Some clapped with wide eyes, others with tears glistening under the dim lighting. Even a few of Amara's co-workers, servers who knew her story, cheered through quiet smiles. But Leonard? He didn't clap at first. He just sat there, stunned, as if the performance had knocked the wind out of his carefully curated ego. The arrogance drained from his face, replaced by something unfamiliar. Was it humility or just shock? He finally gave a slow, almost reluctant clap. 1, 2, 3, each clap more forced than the last. Amara stood slowly, her fingers still tingling. Her heart pounded, but not with fear, with release. She had done it. She had turned humiliation into a moment of undeniable truth. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of strangers who now saw her differently, not as a waitress, not as a girl to be mocked, but as an artist. Then her gaze met Leonard's, and this time it was he who looked away. Amara stepped away from the piano, her back straight, her face calm. She didn't need to say anything. The silence she left behind was louder than any speech. As she returned to her section, diners stopped her, one by one. "You have a gift." That was unforgettable. "Don't stop chasing it." Their words weren't just compliments, they were affirmations, each one chipping away at the doubt she'd carried for years. Even her co-workers looked at her differently now, no longer just the quiet girl on break, but someone who had just moved a room full of strangers with nothing but her soul and 10 fingers. But Leonard, he wasn't finished yet. When Amara brought him the bill, he looked up, and the smirk had returned. Only this time it was hollow, defensive. "Well," he said, voice stiff, "guess I underestimated you." Amara didn't blink. "It happens," she replied. He scribbled his signature with a sharp stroke, then pushed the check across the table. "You've made your point," he muttered. Amara tilted her head, her voice calm but firm. "It wasn't about making a point. I just played." Leonard didn't respond. He couldn't. The weight of the room, the subtle glances from his own companions, said everything. For once, his money and bravado had no currency here. As Leonard and his entourage prepared to leave, the air had completely shifted. The once grand and confident exit now felt rushed, awkward. No more loud jokes, no more boasts about his latest deal. They simply gathered their things in silence, trying to reclaim the bravado they once had. Amara watched them go, feeling no sense of triumph, no desire for revenge. Her mind wasn't on Leonard. It wasn't even on the night's unexpected spotlight. It was on the future. The walk back to the kitchen was different now. She didn't feel like the girl who had to hide her dreams. She felt like the woman who had just claimed them. As she passed by the piano once more, a quiet smile tugged at the corners of her lips. The soft sound of her performance still lingered in the air. She wasn't a waitress with a hidden talent anymore. She was an artist. The next morning, as Amara wiped down the counter before her shift started, the phone rang. It was a local music producer who had been dining that night, and he had a proposition. Not fame, not fortune, not yet, but an opportunity, a chance to record a demo. Amara didn't hesitate. She agreed, not because she thought it would change her life overnight, but because it felt like a door finally opening. Leonard Grayson had tried to diminish her with one word, mockery, but all he had done was remind her that no one could take away her music. The world would always be full of Leonards, people who believed they could define your worth. But true power wasn't in their opinions. It was in your voice, and Amara had found hers. Amara's story is a powerful reminder that no one gets to define your worth. Not the mockers, not the doubters. Your talent, your passion, your dreams, they're yours to claim. So what dream have you been holding back on? Don't let fear or doubt stop you. Take that first step today. If you were inspired by Amara's journey, hit that subscribe button for more stories of resilience and triumph. Who knows, your story could be next.